Hello everyone and welcome back to another Black Desert video. So today I want to talk about Black Desert's progression system and is it still rewarding? So a lot of my friends ask me about this game again. We play other MMOs together and they're like, oh, so what is BDO in a good state again? Or how is it going? And so I thought I'd make an interesting video talking about the progression system, not necessarily gear, but like what does a new player feel going all the way up into the end game, talking about like catch-up mechanics and all that stuff as well. So yeah, is Black Desert's progression system rewarding, and what would it be like as a new player coming into the game? And yeah, so I wanted to share my experience all the way through from when I was a beginner to end game, and if I were to start the game once again, let's say I were to start like an EU account or something, what would I do with the knowledge I have now? So I made a list of things that I wanted to talk about, and yeah, let's talk about it from both the new player's perspective, and once you get into the mid game, which is admittedly probably the most fun, and then what it's like at the end game. And we're gonna talk about the ups and the downs, so lock in. This might be a long video, but there'll be timestamps in the description. And so yeah, with that said, if you are a new player, I honestly wish that if I could go back in time and experience Black Desert once again, like just enjoying the game, I would absolutely do that. With that said, you know how in a lot of MMOs, they have like a classic or a reset, basically starting the game over from like when the game first released. Black Desert is one of those games that would not do well in that regard, because this game is a lot of progression through like grinding, whereas other games like World of Warcraft, let's take that one as the biggest example, you could just do all the raids. It doesn't take that long to get to end game from those games, but Black Desert's end game is literally thousands of hours. If you guys think that making 1 to 2 billion silver an hour in this day is rough, back in the day we were making like 2 mil an hour, but obviously price inflation changed and everything. But yeah, it was a lot harder. You guys can actually watch my videos from like 2014 and see what the real progression system is, because I did a let's play, have over 1,000 videos of all that, just playing through the game at the current time. So yeah, it's all on my channel. You guys can see what it's like. But I would say as a new player, the progression system actually isn't that bad. Like, there's a lot of catch-up mechanics these days. I honestly think that your first like 500 to 1,000 hours in this game, it's really going to be enjoyable, because like you don't know what's happening, you're experiencing everything for the first time. It's, you know, you're making gear gains at a really rapid pace up until mid to end game. And so like, yeah, I think honestly new players are going to have a good time. You're probably going to get confused about like all the knowledge and systems and everything, enhancing all the materials. Like if you were to look at this as a new player, like what are all these materials, what do they do? Yeah, I would be confused. And like all of this system is like, what are all these buffs doing? But anyway, yeah, new players play through seasons. That's basically the tutorial of the game, more or less. And it tells you what you're going to be doing. It kind of like guides you in the right direction up until like more or less the mid game, and then that's where, you know, a lot of the stuff happens. An end game, you know, we'll talk about that one. So anyway, with that said, new players, gear progression is pretty fast these days. There's this one NPC, you guys are gonna see this one a lot, Fugar. This NPC is what you're gonna be looking at and talking to a lot for all the catch-up mechanics. You see all these quests where it's like leveling aid or gear and all that stuff. Yeah, these are what the catch-up mechanics are, and you just do that and you get pushed into the mid-game relatively quickly these days. So I think the hardest thing for new players is probably going to be learning the game, not so much the gear progression early on, but like, let's say if I push this button, or like you see all these knowledge tabs and everything, if you were to look at this entire world and you're just like, what is all this? Like all these nodes, yeah, new players are going to get confused with this instantly. But overall, aside from that, that's the fun part, learning the game for the first time, which is always fun because I get new players asking me about this game, and like they come into the game and they're like, okay, so how should I min-max? What class should I play? I'm like, the first thing you should do if you're like a completely new player, play the class you enjoy. I know it might be hard to find the class you enjoy, but like there's a trial system in the game, and you know, there's like at the main, when you're in your character selection, there's like a normal tab for all your characters, and then there's trial. Just trial all the different characters with like, I think they updated it recently with newer like updated gear, so you can see what class works for you. But I would say, trust me when I talk about playing a class you enjoy is a lot more fun than playing the meta and re-rolling every few months, because I know a lot of people that do that and they burn out of the game, or Prolibus does a huge patch and then nerfs your class because it was the flavor of the month, and then that's it. So anyway, just find something you enjoy, learn the game at your own pace. And the biggest thing I would say is this is mostly a solo game. If you're looking for like raids, dungeons, and all that stuff, BDO has some of them, but not like the main point of the game. So yeah, that's one of those things. All right, so we talked about the new player experience. It's pretty fun, and learning the game is the highlight of it. All right, so mid-game. This is where like a lot of the fun begins, where you're actually thinking about gear progression and what you should do next. Also learning different life skills early on as well. Like there's a lot of different things. And you might be thinking, oh, I want a PvP. Well, where do I go about doing that? So how you find out and like learn all these things in more detail is basically you just go into your tab right here, like your menu tab. Let me show you. I don't know what it is. This is the old menu that we used to look at years ago. You're probably confused at like, what does all this mean? Honestly, I probably would not play with the old one, just because like the new one is just, you can actually search for things a lot easier. But anyway, you just scroll through all of this. If you want to do PvP, if you do life skilling or anything, that's when you kind of explore everything, as well as actually progress your gear in terms of like which is the right progression path and everything. So that's where people also get confused, and I think that is something that's when people start looking up guides, watching other content creators, streamers, and everything, and that's where most people are at. Past seasonals is where I would consider mid-game. So like once you graduate seasons, I would consider that you graduating from like new player, beginner into mid-game, and then mid-game is where like I would say 80% of people are in this game. And then yeah, so what happens then after you get out of seasonals? Like let's say your gear looks something like this, and like let's say you have all Tuvala gear. Your progression path is going to be like, what should I do? So the biggest tip that I would give people is get the most stats you can for the least amount of silver. I'm going to use this example once again, and it's still like the idea is still there, but it might be a little bit different. So let's look at this one. Basilisk belt, 20 AP, and it is, or I guess like we'll look at this one. 17 AP belt for 2 billion silver. And then Crescent Ring, 17 AP, could be more or less. So what, like they have the same stats, get the one that's cheaper. But anyway, that was like the idea of that is there. Prices itself are server difference. But anyway, yeah, that's when people get confused or are at least branching out into, you know, trying different things like life skilling, PvPing. If they like grinding from the beginning stuff, you do that again, working on min-maxing your gear. So with the catch-up mechanics in this game, you basically talk to Fugar once again, like I mentioned. It's like, here, get all this stuff, and then do all these quests, and do all your main suggested recurring, like, quest tabs and everything. and that's where you were going to be like locked into until endgame, and even until endgame you're still doing these. But yeah, that's when you're getting all the mandatory things and like just catching up, whereas like for example you're working on infinite potions and all this stuff. Like these are pretty important to get. You're learning what all these buffs do. You're getting your different gear, getting the essentials. That's where I would consider mid game. So yeah, there's a lot of things that they have given away over the past years, like free. Well, I say free, but it's like discounted pen boss gear, a free tier 10 horse. Try Fallen God. Back in the day, we all had to make all this gear ourselves, and that was like tough to do. Nowadays, you can get it guaranteed, and it's a lot cheaper. So I'm glad. Like, actually, I always said that catch-up mechanics in this game is actually really good, because guess what happens? If you're an endgame player, you have all this gear, but it's so hard for new players to get it. Guess what's going to happen? New players aren't going to play the game is going to die, and all our accomplishments we made are completely worthless if no one is playing the game. So yeah, I always support catch-up mechanics, even if Pearl Abyss makes some questionable decisions these days, but talk about that another time. And mid-game players, I think you're still gonna have a lot of fun with the game. It's just more like you're actually using your brain more, thinking about like, what should I do first, second, what kind of goals do I set? Whereas a new player is just kind of experiencing everything for the first time. Mid-tier players are they have a general good idea of the game, and they're just kind of perfecting it. And then yeah, let's get into the end game. This is where things get kind of like, you're a new player, you're learning the game, you're having fun. Mid, you have to peak, and then going from mid to end game, it's kind of downhill again. So once you're at the end game, it really is a grind. This is a Korean MMO, and if you look at this, all this gear, you cannot sell it on the market. You can only get to a certain point in the game where you can buy your gear with like silver. Like let's say you grind it out and buy up to a certain point of your gear off the central market, and then after that it's all upgrading it yourself. And I would say as an endgame player, the hardest thing, well, not really the hardest, but the most annoying thing is the pity system, which is like this. You see this Agris number, 52 out of 165. You grind, for a bunch of silver, you buy cronstones, you click it, and then it either goes or doesn't. And at endgame, gear progression works as in like whoever gets luckier gets to do or spends more real life money will get to do the endgame content. I would say like most people will still be able to do things, but it's just like there is a difference that vary like 1% versus the 0.1%. And yeah, the end game is a real grind. That's why I know a lot of people who do that either take breaks from the game, or there's a lot of, you find one or two niche things that you like doing in the game and you just keep doing that. But ultimately, from beginner all the way to end, beginners are having fun, you're learning the game. Mid tiers, you're perfecting everything and figuring out what you enjoy doing. End game is like mastering what you enjoy doing, and you're focusing on like one thing at a time in terms of like gear and everything. Spend a lot of money, or people who have the real end game gear, you either got lucky or you spent a lot of money on the game, and that's the hard truth on this game. So it's not that it's bad or it's boring. Sometimes I think Pearl Abyss is a little bit out of touch with some numbers. Like, for example, if I were to make one upgrade right now, so if someone like one tapped that gear, another person would take like half a year to get the same exact thing. And that's not even like, some made up numbers. Like it could take some people one day or literally almost a year to get the exact same thing. So that's why I think that like back in the day, there was no light at the end of the tunnel with enhancing, with no guaranteed system. It's a good thing they added that and add a lot of catch-up mechanics, but I still feel like some of these numbers are kind of insane. But that's how to get you to play the game again and invest more time into it. It is what it is. But yeah, hopefully some of this was informative. If you were to start the game today, I think you would have a lot of fun as a new player, your first couple 100 hours. And then once you get to the mid game, that's where, you know, more of your time is sunk into. You know what's funny is I have 29,400 hours into this game. Most of those hours are me actively playing over the past like 10 years now. And there are people with like double my numbers, but they leave the game on 24/7 and like AFK fishing and activities. But I've been playing this game most of this time. I don't really leave my game on overnight. So a lot of these are active, the majority of them at least. So yeah, it's, you know, that's a big number, almost 30,000 hours in this game. And if you want to watch the experience from the very beginning, just go to my channel and be like, you'll see like a Black Desert category of all the playlists I made. You can see my gear progression from like 2016 all the way till now. You can see all the systems and, you know, changes Prolibus has made and see how everything has changed. So I guarantee you, TLDR, this game is a lot easier for new players to get into than ever. But, you know, once you get to the end game, that's where the sync comes in, and that's where the people who are really dedicated play. But that's about it. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you have any questions, I'm happy to point all of you guys in the right direction. I know this game is very confusing, so if you have any questions on anything specific, feel free to drop in the comments. You could join the Discord, have a gear channel so you guys can just post screenshots and get pointed into the right direction, as well as all the other stuff. So anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about. Tried to make this video short. I feel like I could do like a part 2, part 3, and make this like a whole hour longer. But anyway, see you guys tomorrow. If you're new, hit that subscribe button, and we will have some new stuff coming soon. Peace.